For a crowd that professes to like superheroes, us geek nerd enthusiast people sure can be awfully hard on them. Stories like The Dark Knight Returns and later The Dark Knight Rises feature Batman in retirement, which doesn't sit well with some fans because modern Batman has been shown to be so driven in his mission to make sure what happened to him never happens to another kid, that seeing him relaxing at home with a good stiff drink feels wrong. In Old Man Logan, the Red Skull has taken over the United States of America, and Logan lives a quiet life on a farm with his family. In The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker went into self-imposed exile while his nephew joins the First Order, who destroys an entire solar system. Yeah, it's like salt poured in an open wound to see heroes who once took action to fight the rise of evil sit back and do nothing while evil grows around them. But it's a disservice to shame them for not giving 110% all the time. In the real world, if someone pushes themselves for too long and too hard, eventually they break. It's not healthy. And sure, superheroes are mythical and larger than life, but we also praise storytellers for making them feel human and relatable. Most of the Marvel Universe characters were heroes before they got powers, just human people doing the right thing. So if we want that, and I think most people do, then we have to take the good with the bad, and there you have the facts of life. Sometimes even larger-than-life modern gods need to take a break for their own sake. But let's look at these retired heroes on a case-by-case basis and see if retirement is a good idea for each hero. Batman gives up when Jason Todd died, and bizarrely, the forces of evil seem to adjust themselves to Batman's absence. Characters like the Joker and Two-Face stop their shenanigans when Batman goes away, only to return when he does. Sure, your Joe Chills are still out there murdering more Thomases and Marthas, but Bruce rightly believes he is responsible for Jason's death. If he hadn't brought Jason into this life, he would still be alive. To continue this would be a disservice to Jason's memory. We also see this from Superman's perspective. He remembers the government preparing to crack down on all the heroic community because of Batman's extreme behavior. His retirement was a blessing for the rest of the heroes who continued their heroic efforts in their own way. If Batman kept going, it might have hindered the heroism of everyone else, and where would the world be then? Batman wasn't thinking of that when he hung up the cowl, but in the grand scheme of things, according to Superman, it worked out better for everyone this way. Compare the death of a longtime sidekick and surrogate son to the Dark Knight film trilogy. Bruce's almost girlfriend and childhood friend Rachel Dawes is killed by the Joker, driving Harvey Dent into madness. Once Batman takes the credit for Harvey's crimes, allowing his wholesome image to remain intact, keeping the criminals he put away as district attorney in prison, he retires. The Dent Act cleaned up all crime in Gotham City, removing any need for a Batman. Different strokes for different folks. Some people will say Rachel's death is big enough to push Batman into retirement. I would say it's not as grief-inducing as the death of a son, and I would also say Chris Nolan created the Dent Act in-universe to justify Bruce's retirement. He wanted to do the story of Bruce coming back after being gone, and if the city is a nightmare like it was in Batman Begins or Dark Knight Returns, then it paints Bruce in a bad light because he chose to allow it to get this bad. Also, Nolan wanted to play with the idea of, is Batman necessary, and if he is, does Bruce have to be Batman? If Gotham devolved into the state it was before Bruce became Batman, that first question would already be answered. While I think the circumstances leading to Bruce's retirement in this trilogy is a little forced compared to the comic it is loosely inspired by, I would say Bruce's retirement still makes sense in this context. In Old Man Logan, at first glance, Logan is horrible for letting a maniac like the Red Skull take over the country, until we find out Logan was manipulated into killing the X-Men many years ago. Now his retirement makes more sense. He can't trust himself to snick it again. What if he isn't seeing what he's seeing? More innocents could get hurt. His family could get hurt. Think of the famous "with great power comes great responsibility" mantra. That doesn't mean if you have superpowers you must punch supervillains in the face. Logan has a responsibility to his family that him going growl on the villains could jeopardize. In The Last Jedi, we find out Luke very nearly killed an innocent kid, and that is what led to the creation of Kylo Ren. Much like Logan, Luke can't trust his gut instincts, or he might make things worse. A lot of people had a problem with Luke very nearly killing a family member, but that's a subject for another time. Why did Thor drink and get himself fat? Oh, he didn't think he was worthy to be a hero because he failed to save literally half the population of the universe, so what's the point of him doing anything if he couldn't save those people? Okay, that makes a little more sense. It stings when we see these heroes not acting heroically, but there's no umbrella "you guys should get back on the horse" scenario. But even if there was, when was the last time you or I did something heroic? I don't mean jumping into a burning building to save a family. That's heroic, but that's the extreme example. Superhero stories condition us to think of that kind of thing as heroism, and it's a very limited view. But giving blood? You're saving someone's life. A GoFundMe? Some poor soul no longer has to worry about paying for that expensive necessary procedure. Giving someone some money they accidentally dropped? You just made their day, even if it might not seem like a big deal to you. Maybe my cynical eyes are just closed to this kind of thing, but I don't see nearly enough of this in a world that criticizes these fictional characters for not doing enough. So please, go out there and be a hero to somebody. That's what I'm going to try to do.